that's the power of Torah study. The Gemara illustrated that with a story. Ki hadar av chizda. Jonathan, do you have it? Or you say Birchas Torah? He's doing the right thing first. Oh, Kedushin, very good. Doesn't protect you from.
Over here, if you hear the Torah, you shouldn't
No, but we're talking about Dr. David. He already killed the person. Or let's first just. It could be if he's not engaged in that Torah study during the time that he's not engaged in the learning. That maybe that's when the accident happened. He was going down the ladder. Meaning, when did he kill? Mitzvah. Okay, very good. So the Gemara here has the following story. Hadar av chizda. Yes. Right. Even might call Timi Malach HaMavet. Right. So that's what when you study Torah, when a person studies Torah, a person has put himself in a very good position that the angel of death. It's very rare that the angel of death will take a person while he's studying Torah. It doesn't mean that it might not happen. It's possible that it might happen. But I presume the Gemara means that in general, it's a great protection. Certain things, morning, Mike, some people have security. And
morning,
even this security guard, morning, security guard doesn't mean that you always will be safe. But usually you're safe when you have a security guard. So I think the same, you're protected. I think the same thing as the Gemara is saying, because the Torah connects says V'zot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lefnei Yisrael. The Torah was connected to the parsha of cities of refuge. The Gemara says the same way that the cities of refuge save you from the Goal Hadam, that if somebody kills someone unintentionally, and as a result of that, the close relative wants to kill him, once you're in the cities of refuge, you are safe. The Gemara says the same. The Torah also says V'zot HaTorah. Right next to that portion, to tell us Torah, when you're involved in Torah study, you're also safe. Who are you safe from? You're safe from the Malach HaMavet. Mr. Saffi, is that clear or not clear? No, so according to the second answer of the Gemara, the first answer of the Gemara was that if a person is involved in Torah study, the Goel Hadam, the close relative of the victim, cannot kill him because you're in safe haven. That's the first answer of the Gemara. The second answer of the Gemara, no. Even if you're involved in Torah study, the Goel Hadam has a right to kill. The only thing the Gemara said is that there's someone else. There's the angel of death, which is not the Goel Hadam. And that angel of death doesn't have you usually, but when you're engaged in Torah study, the angel of death doesn't touch you when you're involved in Torah study. And we explain Torah is life. Angel of death is a total opposite of life, and he can't come close to take your life when you are engaged in the thing that represents, good morning, Akiva, life. That's how we explained it. And therefore, a person wants protection from the angel of death while you're studying Torah. That's why we have a famous story with David HaMelech. David HaMelech, he knew he was going to die in Shabbat. He was told he was going to die in Shabbat, and he spent the whole day learning Torah on the Shabbat, and the angel of death couldn't get him. So he distracted his attention. Then when he distracted his attention, that's how he got him. That's what the Gemara is going to say over here. Say it again. No, the bullet was probably just another way. The Malach HaMavet was probably the angel of death has different ways that he could cause the death. Either through it is him. It is the angel of death that's also taking the guy's life when the bullet. I don't believe it's just there's obviously there's a bullet. And what? No, but this statement is saying that exile, that learning Torah will not protect you from the relative of the victim.
Why?
Why?
That's from,
Maybe it takes you from the angel of death, right? So maybe, so like we said, it might protect you from the angel of death. See, first of all, according to this Gemara, according to the first answer of the Gemara's first answer was that Torah study will save you from save you from the relative of the victim. It doesn't say that Torah study will save you from death, from the Gol Hadam. He wants to kill you, but it will save you specifically from the relative of the victim. The relative of the victim has no right to kill the person if the person is engaged in Torah study. The same way you go into exile, one of the 6 cities of refuge, you're safe. The victim's relatives cannot kill. So too, if you're studying Torah, the victim's relative can't touch you. You could be not in this cities of refuge. Your refuge is the study of Torah. That was one approach of the Gemara. The second approach is no way. Learning Torah is not going to save you from if you're learning Torah, the angel of death still has a right to kill. He still has a right to kill. The victim's Goel Hadam, the victim's relative, still has a right to kill. But what does it mean to say? It will generally protect the person. It might not protect them from the Goel Hadam. Even though, see what Dr. Navid is asking, he's saying like this: the victim's brother, the victim's relative wants to kill. And we're saying that the person is saved from the angel of death when he's studying Torah. So how is the victim's relative going to be able to kill him? That's what you're asking. So I don't know that the Gemara means to say under all circumstances. I don't think the Gemara is saying under all circumstances that if you engage in Torah study, a person won't get killed, can't be killed. But the Gemara is saying that in general, it would be a protection. That's how I would understand. In general, the Torah study will protect you from the angel of death. But if there's the relative of the Goel Hadam, the relative of the victim, he still has a right to kill the person. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, even by them might call him Malach HaMovet, from the angel of death. He was learning in the yeshiva. The one who is the angel of death, the mikra of the gabe. The angel of death was not able to come close to killing him. Why not? Why couldn't he come close to killing him? Because he was constantly, he wasn't quiet. His mouth wasn't quiet from Torah study. And that protected him. So what did the angel of death do in order to get him to distract him? So Salik, the angel of death, went he went outside the yeshiva. He sat on one of the branches of the tree, and and then the tree, that branch, it made broke. And when it broke, the rabbi was distracted, and at that moment, he was able to go ahead and kill him. Very similar to the story of David HaMelech. Omer Rav Tanchum bar Chanilai. Rav Tanchum, the son of Chanilai, says the following observation. Why was Ruvain? You know, there was Bnei Gad, Bnei Ruvain, and half the Chatzik Menashe. There were 2.5 tribes on the east side of the Yarden, of the Jordan River, before the Jewish people crossed the Jordan. 2.5 tribes settled there, and the other 9.5 settled in Israel proper. And Moshe Rabbeinu separated the cities, the three cities of refuge on this east side of the Jordan. And the pasuk says that the first city that was designated as a city of refuge was Ruvain. The city of Ruvain was designated first. What did Ruvain do? Why did he merit that his city, like if you look, it says in Devarim, es Betse ba'midbar be'eretz hamid l'Ruveni. First, Ruvain city, the city was designated for Ruvain first, then Gad, and then Menashe. Why did Ruvain get this honor? So the Gemara says, meaning to say, nothing is by chance. And to be the first city of refuge, to be first place is very special. It's very honorable that you go down in history, that your city of refuge, the city that was separated to save people from the relative of the victim, which is a beautiful thing to be saved. Because the Torah wants people to be saved. The Torah is looking for the person who kills unintentionally. We really want him to be saved. And it's not a coincidence that Ruvain's city was of refuge, was listed first, was designated first in the countings. That the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu designated all three cities at the same time, pretty much, right? He designated three cities. So why was this mentioned first? So the Gemara said, right, but Reuven lost the Bechorah. Reuven already lost the Bechorah because of his sin that he did, that he moved to bed. Yaakov, Yaakov gave it away. He lost the firstbornship. Were they the biggest camp population-wise? We have to look at the numbers, but see the Marsha, the commentaries. You see, the way the Marsha they asked you a question, Mr. Safdie. Why? What's the Gemara's question? Why Reuven's listed first? He happens to be the firstborn, even though he lost the firstbornship, but we still refer to him as the firstborn. We still give him certain honors. So one of the answers that the Ein Yaakov answers the following, because when it came to the division of the land, when they divided the land, it says the land of Gad was mentioned first when they divided the land on this side of the Jordan. So the same way when they divided the land, division of the land, Gad was mentioned first. So when it comes to the cities of refuge, of giving over, separating, allocating cities of refuge, it should have also been mentioned first. Meaning you should have been consistent, right? We like to be consistent. Anytime something is not consistent, right, Mike? You have to ask the question, why not be consistent? So when the Torah discusses, this land, when we're going to discuss which lands went to which of the tribes on this side of the east side of the Jordan, the Torah emphasizes God got this thing first, talks about God's portion. And then it talks about Ruvain. So why over here, when it comes to the cities of refuge, Ruvain gets the first, his is mentioned first. That's the Gemara's question. Hey, the Gemara, wow. Yeah, you figured out the Gemara. That's great. When you figure out the Gemara's answer, Dr. Navid, that means you're on the right page. That's what the Gemara is going to answer. Look at the Gemara's answer. How do you like that? The Gemara says that now we understand that we got the Gemara's question good. We got the Gemara's question good. First question is, why are we being consistent? Why is Reuven's piece of property that was designated for a city of refuge mentioned first, when it comes to his receiving land overall, God is mentioned first. Is that clear, Mr. Safdie? So the Gemara answers, Shehu patach b'atzalat tchila. He was the one when it came to Yosef. And if the brothers want to kill Yosef, what does he do? He says, it says, Vayishma Ruvain vayatzileu miyadam. Ruvain saved Yosef from the hands of his brothers who wanted to kill him initially. So the Gemara says, he was pasach b'hatzalat tchila. Go back one line. Because he opened up in saving first. He was the one who tried to save first. Eventually, Yehuda was the next person, who was the second person who helped save Yosef. But the first person was Reuven says, let's get him out of the pit, let's sell him. But Reuven said, let's put him into the pit. Don't touch him. Don't kill him with your bare hand. So Reuven was the one who opened up first to save Yosef. You're a person that saved. So now Hashem, many years later, now how many years ago did that happen? That was a story maybe over 250 years earlier, that Reuven did this act of saving Yosef. So Hashem says, because of that, I'm going to give you a great honor. You're going to be mentioned first. See, when someone who's mentioned first in the Torah is a great honor. You're going to be mentioned first, that you're going to be a city of refuge, and you're going to get the honor of being mentioned first. I think in life we see an amazing thing. When you do something, Mars, when you could do something today, you don't know how many years later you're going to be repaid and for that great honor. And now you're going to go down in history, you're going to be mentioned first because of that act that was done over 200 years ago. Again, remember, we do find that sometimes, listen, the people who killed there were only killed unintentionally. Remember, it's not that these are murderers who killed intentionally. Only thing is, the Gemara does say that when the person killed, everybody would run there. Even the intentional murder. So, the question is, how did they protect, but the Levium, there was a lot of people living there. So a lot of rabbis living there, Levium, and maybe that's maybe why people would be happy to live there, because it was a holy place. Okay, there was 42 cities of Levium, so there's a lot of cities there to run around. So they go. Yes. So they go. It's not a big deal if you have 42 cities around Israel. Really, 42 plus these three is 45. Yeah, so I don't believe that. I would think the Levium were not really staying there. They were staying on the other side, generally speaking. Good morning, Jaime.
Morning.
Okay. Morning. Yes. Yes, Mr. Sen. Yes. Right. But they didn't see that when they said throw Yosef into the pit, they didn't see the snakes in the school. Morning, Yosef Atzadik. Okay, we are on Yudom and Aleph. We are on 10A. We are 10A in Art Scrolls 10A3. We are now in the right column, 10A3, Darash Rav Simloi. We are now continuing in the expounding regarding the Uri Miklat, the cities of refuge. Darash Rav Simloi. Rav Simloi said the following: My diksiv, what is the pasuk's intention? Oz Yavdil Moshe Shalosh Arim Be'eva Hayadain Mizrach Hashem Shamesh. What is the intention of the pasuk when it emphasizes Moshe separated three cities? We said on the east side of the Jordan, he separated three cities before they went into the land of Israel. Three cities were designated. And it says Mizrach Hashemesh. The word Mizracha, the east side, we like the Lower East, we like the east side, right? But the east side seems those words seem to be superfluous. We know that they're on that side. We know they didn't pass the Jordan. We know that's where they are. So why is the Torah emphasizing? Because earlier in Maseh, it did not mention the word Mizrach Hashemesh. It says Be'eva Hayardei, and now the Torah emphasizes. By the way, it was in the east side. Why is the Torah emphasizing the east side right over here? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. God says to Moshe, Hazrach Shemesh L'Rotzchim. You need to be concerned to prepare all the needs, what they need of the cities of refuge. Meaning to say, you need to make it shine. The reason why Mizrach, by the way, Mizrach is east, right? We all know Mizrach is east, Ma'irav is west. Why is Mizrach east? Because what is the root word of Mizrach? Zarach. The word Mizrach has the word Zarach, means to shine. The sun shines in the east. The sun rises in the east and settles in the west. So therefore, the west, the evening, is called Erev. The evening is Erev, that's the Ma'arav. Ma'arav is the west because the evening, the sun goes down. It's dark. That's Ma'arav. The morning is, the east is Mizrach, because that's where the sun shines. And the job, Hashem is telling Moshe, Mizrach Hashemesh. You have to make it shine, so to speak, for the people who killed unintentionally. You got to make sure that they have all the needs that they need like you say, it's a bright day for this person. They have, it was a bright day. Doesn't mean literally that it was shining in a literal sense that the sun was out, but for this individual, it was a very good day. Shemesh is the sun. So shine, right, meaning so to speak, Mizrach Hashemesh, right? See, Mizrach Hashemesh literally means in the east where the sun shines, or the east of where the sun is. But here we're translating it, you should go ahead and do things for the people who killed unintentionally, that it should be shining for them, that it should be nice and good for them. Meaning to say, make sure the cities that you designate and you separate are cities that have marketplaces, that they can have proper food, places that there's proper water, they should have proper water, and other things that you have to make sure to ensure, like we said earlier, make sure don't separate such a large city, because we don't want the victim's relative to come into town on a regular basis and maybe try to ambush the one who killed unintentionally. Do things to make sure that it should be a it should shine on the person who killed unintentionally. That's the instruction. Mizrach Hashemesh is instructing Moshe to take action, to do things to make sure that it'll be nice and bright, so to speak, in a sense, for the Rotzchim, for the people, again, for the unintentional murderers. That's the first version of the Gemara. The Gemara continues. Others say the following. Others say, Amalo, Hashem is saying to Moshe, Hashem is giving Moshe a pat on the back. Right, Morris? What's the pat on the back that Hashem is giving Moshe? But where Moshe Feinstein in the yeshiva would give people a pat on the shoulder after they would hold the chumash for him, would give them a pat on the shoulder. So here's the pat on the back that Hashem says. What's the pat on the back? Amalo, Hizrach shemesh l'rotzchim. You have created a light. You have created the sun for the murderers. What does that mean? What do you say? What do you mean? What is the light that you created? I mean, the light is a sign of life. By separating the fields of the cities of refuge, that Moshe Rabbeinu went ahead and he separated the cities. He designated the cities for the person who killed unintentionally. That is life. You've created something very positive. Jonathan, is everything clear? I got to make sure it's clear. Okay, so that's because Moshe Rabbeinu did an amazing thing. The law is that the cities of refuge, if a person kills unintentionally and he runs to the cities of refuge, but the only time the cities of refuge would actually take effect, the laws of cities of refuge take effect, is only when they come to the land of Israel. And they designate the cities of refuge in Israel, then you can have the cities of refuge outside of Israel to take effect. So in a certain sense, today's designation of Moshe Rabbeinu will not have no effect at all. Because it took 7 years for the Jews to conquer the land of Israel, 7 years to divide it, and then they designated the cities of refuge in the land of Israel. So it's not going to be until, let's say, 14 years later that the cities of refuge will be designated in the land of Israel. Nonetheless, and Moshe Rabbeinu designates the cities now. He separates them. He puts up maybe the signs. They put up signs that say Miklat. Everyone should know when you're on traveling, that's the way to the Miklat. Moshe Rabbeinu, any construction that was needed was done now, 14 years in advance, but they had to make sure, they make bridges to get there. They have to make sure that the ground areas are flat. There's no bumps in the road. They have to make sure everything has to be. The cities have to have straight roads to these cities. Everything was done in advance. Which we're going to see, that shows Moshe's love for mitzvot. But that action that Moshe did in advance was a great. He put the sun on. He put the sunlight on. He put the lights on. Get the lights on. Sometimes the lights are on represent physically, actually having the lights on. Some other way when you see the lights are on, it's referring. Like I was at a bar mitzvah. And it's like someone said, the sun is shining on that family. That just doesn't mean literally the sun. It means that happiness and goodness is shining. So that's what Hashem is complimenting Moshe Rabbeinu. We just had Shivas of the Tammuz, which just commemorated. Moshe Rabbeinu over there did also something on his own. He broke the luchot on the 7th day of Tammuz. And Hashem says to Moshe, Yasher Koach. Asher Shibarta Yasher Koach. God complimented Moshe, you did the right thing for breaking the luchot. Obviously, Moshe broke the luchot. There should be a kapara, there should be an atonement for the Jewish people. But sometimes Moshe did certain things on his own, and God complimented him. So here is a compliment. See, it's important to compliment. God compliments Moshe Rabbeinu. And he says, you've done a very good thing for the people who kill unintentionally by separating these cities. And then the Gemara says, it's not by chance that Moshe was the man who went ahead and designated these cities of refuge, even though it will not take effect yet, because Moshe had a certain love. And because of the love that he had, that love pulled him to go far beyond what was necessary. The Gemara says, Dorish Rav Simoy, my diksiv, the pasuk says, Oiv kesef lo yispa kesef. Someone who loves money is not satiated by money. This is what Shlomo HaMelech says in Kehelet. Shlomo HaMelech, as you know, is not always referring even though he talks about individuals, but many times there's a much deeper meaning when he talks about a husband and a wife. The love, we know, refers to the relationship with the Jewish people and God. So what is he referring to here when he says the man who loves money is not satiated by money? Is he just coming to tell us this fact that many people who have a love for money are not satiated, and maybe he's teaching us a lesson? Don't have such a love for money. Don't make money your priority in life. because you're never going to be satisfied. Like we say, the guy has 100, wants 200, whatever you want. Is that what Shlomo HaMelech is telling us? Maybe it is a good piece of advice. People shouldn't have that love. You should love your family. You should love Torah. You should love other things. You should put your love. Don't put such a love on money. Is that what he's saying? But the Gemara is saying it's referring to something else. And also, mi ohei b'hamon lo tfua. The Gemara is going to explain that part of the pasuk coming up. Good morning, Jay. Very good. Because one is referring to, one's an instruction. One's an instruction to Moshe. Make the sun shine. Do things that will make it shine. And the other interpretation of the Gemara is you have made it shine. So the first instruction, the first gear says, Hazrach Shemesh l'rosim. Make it shine. Do things that will be good and beneficial for the murderer who killed unintentionally. Make it shine for him. And the second text is, you have made it shine. You have already done it. That's the two differences. Is that clear, doctor? Now, the Gemara says, Oiv kesef lo yispa kesef. Who is this person who loves money? It's not referring to money. It's referring to mitzvot. Sometimes you use money as a metaphor, if that's the right word, to get the point across. What does it mean? Because mitzvot are compared to money. I presume the reason why mitzvahs are compared to money is most probably the same way a person has an appreciation for money, he should have an appreciation for mitzvot. So, Oiv Kesef Moshe Rabbeinu, he was a person who loved mitzvot, and if you love mitzvot, you will never be satiated for mitzvot. You're going to want it more. You're going to want it more. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu. And he was the epitome of Oev Kesef, Lo Yispa Kesef. What was the story? Zeh Moshe Rabbeinu. Shehayodea she'ein shalosh orim shebe'eva Yarden. He knew that the three cities, be'eva Yarden, on this side of the Jordan, he knew they will not be koltot. He knew they will not take effect. They will not serve as cities of refuge. And Shalonifulu, Shalosh Eretz Canaan. Until the three cities in the land of Israel will be chosen and designated, the three cities on this side of the Jordan would not take effect. It won't take effect. It's like, it's not taking effect until December 31st. It's like the deal's not going through. The contract's not going through. It doesn't take effect. We have a contract, but the deal doesn't happen. But what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? V'amah, mitzvah shebo liyadi akayimen. A mitzvah that comes to my hand, even though you can ask, what do you mean mitzvah? It's not even, what does it mean mitzvah? Meaning, because I could prepare, sounds like from the Gemara, because I have the opportunity to do something with this mitzvah. I could designate it, I could get it ready, I could do all of that, even though it's not going to take effect yet, but eventually my action will have its effect. It'll have effect 14 years from now. The deal is going to be, the closing is 14 years from now. But I'm able to do this. I'm able to go to contract right now. I'm able to designate the cities now. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm not, and even though he's not going to be able to be alive, he knows he's not going to be alive to do it. He knows he's not going to be alive. What do you say, Mr. Safdie? That's Moshe Rabbeinu. But you know what I can do? I could separate the city. It might not take effect, but I could do what I need to do. It's like the guy who gets involved in a building project, he's building the yeshiva. He knows he's not going to be able to be involved in the conclusion of the project. Let's say for whatever his situation in life is, he's not going to be able to involve in the, but if I'm able to build the foundation, I'll do the foundation. Someone else is going to take over. I know I can't see through the project. I don't have the time to be the chairman of this project to see this project go through it to the end. But I'm able to get the project, start the project. I'm able to do something. A person shouldn't say, if I can't do it, if it's not going to take effect, then I'm not going to get involved. unless I'm able to do the whole thing. Moshe Rabbeinu is the sign he does what he can, and that's people have to ask themselves, are they emulating Moshe Rabbeinu or not? And that's what the pasuk is saying. Now, but again, there needs to be this love for mitzvot. Moshe Rabbeinu was showing it only comes when you have a love, then you go the extra mile. That's the key. The Gemara, the end of the pasuk says, "Mi ohev b'hamon lo tfua." What does that mean? The Gemara says, "L'mi no'eh l'lamed b'hamon." Who is the right person to teach in the public, to teach Torah to the masses? So the pasuk says, "Mi ohev," meaning who is the beloved? Who is the right person to b'hamon? Hamon means in the multitudes. Who's the right person for the job? Who should you tap for the job to teach the masses? Lo tua. So lo tua, we're like we're changing the lam, the aleph for the vav, meaning someone who has a lot of grain. Someone who has a lot of grain. Here, when we say grain, we're not referring to physical grain. First, it's a Torah grain. He knows the Chumash, he knows Mishnah, he knows. Rashi says he knows, he's a baki. He's an expert in Chumash, Mishnah, Halachot, Agadot. That's the man who should tap for the job to Misha Kolatua Shalom. That all the grain is his, all the aspects of Torah he is fluent in. And maybe that's a lesson for here, all the people that are here, that you have schools that your kids go to, or the yeshivot that your kids go to. So you as parents should see to it to encourage who are going to be the teachers of the children. Who are going to be the teachers you should encourage? You want people who are very educated in Torah, people that have a lot of knowledge. Not that you want people that are just don't have too much. You want it, that's the right person to teach in the masses. And I'm just saying, in each situation in life, the greater the Torah scholar, hopefully he'll be able to give over much more to the children and to the students. So the Gemara says, "V'hainu de'ama Rabbi Elazar," and that's what Rabbi Elazar says. When the pasuk says, "Mi amalel gvuras Hashem," who is going to tell over the Gvurat Hashem? The Torah is the power, it's the might of Hashem. Yashmiya kol tilato. L'mi noeh l'Gvurat Hashem. Who is the right person to give the Torah lessons and discourses? Mi sheyochel hashmiya kol tilato. Someone who's able to, someone who's an expert in all levels of Torah. He's the one. It was the man you want to tap for the job to be the teacher. Like now, certain shuls are looking for new rabbis. Look for a rabbi who has a lot of Torah education, could really educate the masses properly. Have a great day, everybody. We welcome Jonathan, and all the best. Good to see everybody on the screen. We had a nice screen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a beautiful day.
Mike, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.